Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Helen Redfern and I'm known on Instagram as Helen Redfern Writer. I've been on Instagram now for 4 or 5 years, and Instagram over that period of time has changed an awful lot. We've now got algorithms. In more recent times I've found engagement and your reach has declined dramatically, and there's all sorts of sponsored posts and various different things that make Instagram itself a completely different place. However, despite all of this, I do actually think that Instagram is still a really good place for writers and for authors, and this is because it has actually helped me with my writing. First of all, it has helped in the way I identify myself as a writer. I've talked about this before, but many years ago I couldn't describe myself as a writer. If someone asked what I did, I certainly wouldn't say I'm a writer, whereas now I do. Secondly, it has helped me develop my writing skills. Thirdly, it has helped develop ideas. Fourthly, it has enabled me to discover my writing voice. Fifthly, it's given me confidence with my writing. It's probably also done a lot more than that as well, but I've got a lot to be grateful for from Instagram. Instagram has also helped me build up and be part of a brilliant community on there where we share ideas, we share inspiration. I've found an audience for my writing, an amazing audience for my writing, and some of them support me by coming over to YouTube. You might be one of those people. If so, thank you. And some of them have gone over to my Patreon page and supported me there as well. However, I didn't start Instagram with that in mind. I didn't start Instagram with the idea of getting people onto my Patreon or to come over and subscribe to YouTube or to buy any future books that I might write. I started Instagram purely for the love of expressing myself in a creative way, and on the way I found an audience. Now, how I use Instagram as a writer is going to be in 2 parts. First of all, part 1 is going to look at the main feed of Instagram and how I take photos and use that area as a writer. And the second part is going to be how I use Instagram stories. They overlap slightly, however, I do use Instagram stories in a different way the majority of the time than I do the Instagram main feed. So this is part 1 where I look at my main feed and how I use it as a writer. So as I talk here, I'm going to pull in some examples from my Instagram feed, and also I've got a few examples of other writers who are, I think, sharing their writing processes or sharing their writing in a really special way. So first of all, on Instagram I show my audience where I work. Personally, I am fascinated by where writers work, what their desk setup looks like. One of my favourite films is Something's Gotta Give with Diane Keaton in, who is a writer, and I love the shots of her sitting at her desk and it's piled with books and stacks of paper. I think this is to make it obvious that I am a writer, and I'm not just telling my audience that I'm a writer or telling them how I want to be perceived, but I'm telling myself that I am a writer. I show pictures of my writing desk a lot and my writing office a lot, and this is the only area of my house that I actually show online. So if you wanted to do it but you didn't want to show anywhere in your home, you could share close-ups of your desk rather than the room the desk is in, or you could show you out and about in a coffee shop, for example, or in a library. And Rachel Lucas, the author, often shows us on her Instagram feed pictures of her desk at home, but also pictures when she's out and about, say if she's writing in a library. And I love her feed for that reason. Personally, I am fascinated where people write, and I love to see desks that are piled high with notebooks and paper, even scraps of paper, biscuit crumbs, cake, coffee, tea. I just find the whole behind the scenes of where a writer works and how a writer works really fascinating. Secondly, you could share your work in progress, and I have often done this, and in the past I wrote non-fiction, just little snippets of non-fiction inspired by nature, and I did that deliberately for Instagram. I found that very time consuming. Nowadays, because my focus is on my essays and my novel, I tend to share more of what I have been working on that day. So it could be a sheaf of papers, which is my essay, or it could be my cards like these with my chapter breakdown on. It's basically more of a work in progress rather than creating something brand new purely for Instagram. What I tend to do with my work is place it on my desk and just arrange it with straight lines. I'm very much like Hercule Poirot there. I like a straight line on Instagram, and I will arrange the books I've read or my notebooks, working out the plan for my month, or like I say, the work I have just been working on. Thirdly, you could share what inspires you. Basically, you're telling your audience and yourself, don't forget that you yourself are your audience. I think that's quite important. Share where you get your inspiration from. So in the past, I have used a lot of nature. I use my animals. I've used my chickens and my ducks. For you, it might not be nature. It might be buildings. It might be cities. It might be traveling. Whatever it is, take a photograph of it and tell us in the caption what it is that has inspired you, what it is that has made you stop and take that photograph. The author Liz Fennick regularly snaps pictures that she's taken on what she calls her plot walk in the mornings. Liz's novels are all about Cornwall, and she lives in Cornwall herself, and she walks around Cornwall taking pictures of nature and whatever it is that has come to her attention on her plot walk that morning. And then we also have Una Moon, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. She is another writer who captures beautiful scenery up in Scotland, and it's very moody and atmospheric and fits in with her tagline of modern folk tales from Scotland, and she has a beautiful grid of photographs. Fourthly, as a writer, use your captions. It's amazing actually the amount of writers and authors I see that don't put anything in their captions, and I think, but this is your skill, this is your talent, use it, show it off, show your audience what they would get if they bought a book by you. And I think it's a great way to build up that trust so that somebody will go out there and purchase your book. You could write some flash fiction, you could write some flash non-fiction, which is what I used to do. And for me, I've done it by either handwriting it, or I've done it by taking a photograph and then using the caption below as a writing practice. That's basically all it is, and this is where I think Instagram has really helped me over the years. It has forced me to write on a daily basis. A person who uses her captions really well is Laura Jane Williams, and I'll link her details below. She actually has a hashtag called Laura Jane Wears. Every time she wears an outfit, she will snap it, put it on a grid, and she will call herself a different name and invent a totally different life for the person wearing that outfit. And I think it's a really clever way, A, of writing, and B, of using Instagram as a writer. Finally, I think a lot of us like to see an author's desk or a writer's desk, but we also like to see what they're reading. And Bookstagram is a huge community. Yes, it's a way of finding an audience, but it's also a way of sharing what you love and letting your audience get to know you that little bit better through what you're reading. So that's all the ways I have used Instagram as a writer. I've also shared other things along the way. I've shared my baking, I've shared my chickens, I've shared pictures of nature and things like that, and just shown a bigger picture of me and allowed the audience to get to know me, and also getting to know other Instagrammers and getting to know my audience as well. And it's a great place. It's a great place to be at the moment as a writer. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you for part 2, which will come next week.